Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review for you all, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a horror film from Norway, Norwegian language English subs, released in the year 2023, directed by Stig Svensson, and this film is called Viking Wolf. So Viking Wolf is about the town of Nybo. It's a very peaceful community until one day the mayor's daughter is found dead in the woods. It appears that she's been clawed at and bitten, so they initially think it's a wolf. And so as more people are found dead with the same injuries, the mayor realises that she's going to have to send a hunting party to find this wolf. But as the hunting party venture into the woods, they realise they're up against something so much more than just an animal. In fact, this being is dating back to the Viking era that poses a lot of danger for anyone that comes across its path. And so what happens to the townspeople is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Viking Wolf. I come into this movie with equal excitement and hesitation, and so that was something that I don't get very often. You know, you're either coming into a movie not expecting much, or you go into a movie very excited. But this movie, I had the excitement based on the fact that it is a werewolf film. Now, I'm a massive fan of the subgenre of werewolf, and I also like the fact that it's a Scandinavian production, and so that was the excitement. But the hesitation with the fact that although I love werewolf movies, it is a very generic subgenre. A lot of ideas are borrowed from the classic werewolf films, and so if you've seen one, you've seen them all. So that was the initial hesitation. Also the hesitation based on the fact that it is called Viking Wolf doesn't really instill a lot of confidence that it's going to be a serious film, and also the fact that it's a Netflix movie. Now Netflix recently haven't impressed me, and so I thought, okay, well, is this one of those movies that I'm going to add to the disappointment pile? But as I said, the excitement and the hesitation combining together created a lot of curiosity, and so not trying to judge this movie on outside influence is a very hard thing to do, but I was going to give this movie every opportunity to impress me, and impress me it did. I thought as though this movie was incredibly enjoyable, and the criticism level at this movie, I feel as though people are taking it a little bit too seriously. If you concentrate hard enough, you're going to find negatives, but then again, you're going to find negatives in nearly every single film out there. But if you sit back and enjoy yourself, this is a werewolf film that I thought was generic in its formula, but are creative enough to actually make you feel as though you're seeing something a little bit different. It intertwines werewolf lore with Scandinavian lore, and so I thought, okay, that was creative. Although this movie is paying homage to the classic werewolf films, it still felt as though it was bringing enough to the table that suggested that it was a different entity. It was separate, it was creative, and that's something that you don't get in a lot of werewolf films. And so that's definitely the biggest plus that this movie has going for it, is that I felt as though I was watching something different, so I didn't really have that predictability in there. And so this movie, you will get shades of American Werewolf in London, you will get shades of The Howling, all those classic films, but at the same time seeing a Scandinavian version of a werewolf, and I thought that was really, really well done. And so it's a very fun film. It's actually quite a dark movie. I thought as though the way this story goes down the path at the end, I thought left me surprised in a very pleasant way, and so that was very good. And I also really liked the human element of the movie. I thought the characters were really well drawn out. The script is very good, which allowed these characters to portray very three-dimensional characters without pulling on the heartstrings and without going into melodrama. And so the movie needs a stopgap. You know, a lot of these films, when you go into there expecting a horror experience, the non-horror element is very boring, and you're waiting for, you know, the scary stuff to happen, so the continuity is very disjointed. But this movie, I thought the fluency was absolutely fantastic because of the fact I thought the characters were very interesting. They weren't annoying, and it wasn't trying too hard to make you feel sad for them. I thought as though the evolution of these characters and the relationships of these characters, I thought was really well done and actually quite emotional. And so while the horror element isn't taking effect, it's building a very strong foundation that makes that horror element even more high impact. And so I thought that was really, really well done. I thought the script was very smart, and it just intensifies the scariness that this movie has about it. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a scary film, because it is very enjoyable, but there are a lot of suspenseful moments, and so that's something that I really liked. I thought as though the horror set pieces were really well done, and the biggest draw card to a werewolf film is the transformation scenes. Now that can either make or break a movie, but I thought the self-awareness in this movie really shined in that there were transformations, but you don't get to see it overly, and it's not emphasized to a point where it's either going to be hit and miss. It does play its cards very well, and it's very intelligently done. It gives you enough insight to show you the transformation, but not enough to show you the shortcomings of the budget, so I thought that was really, really well done. So if you are a fan of werewolf films and you want to see something a little bit different, Viking Wolf is definitely for you. It's a silly name, but it's definitely a lot better than they would suggest. And so you have moments that I thought were absolutely fantastic, are very, very good. You've got a scene in the woods that I thought was fantastic. You also got a scene on a bus that I thought was very similar to the scene in American Werewolf in London. And so as I said, it pays homage to the classics, but it's not ripping them off like a lot of other werewolf films do. So if I have issues with the movie, is that it is great, but it had enough opportunity to be absolutely brilliant, but it just doesn't go over that threshold. It doesn't quite have the confidence to go that extra step. I thought as though the scene in the woods and the scene on the bus, I thought if it actually went that extra step, it could have been absolutely phenomenal, would have been incredibly memorable, but there were moments that I thought it just held it back a little bit. It was a little bit of stage fright. It didn't want to go that extra step to offend people, and I thought as though it would have been icing on the cake. It would have been absolutely brilliant if he actually went that next step, the director. And so that's the only criticism. It's not much of a criticism of what was an incredibly enjoyable experience. If you are a fan of werewolf films, then I definitely feel as though Viking Wolf is for you. As I said, it provides something a little bit different with the werewolf lore because it intertwines the Scandinavian view on werewolves, and so it's something a little bit different within a very tired subgenre that I really appreciated. So overall for Viking Wolf, going to give this one 3.5 stars. Go out there and see it. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies and I'll see you later.